This is right in the beginning. The previous chapter was describing so many of the Lord's activities and how he gained the hand of Mother Sita. Kshatriya should fight for his wife, okay, with competitors. Okay. And he won her, took her home, and they lived happily for some time. Then he was exiled to the forest and he came back. So after he came back, then he was ruling. In the beginning of this chapter 11 is describing how the Lord engaged in sacrifice. Sacrifice. Yad yada charite shestas. The monarch, the king, the government leader, the teacher, the guru, the parents, they should set examples. They have to teach by example. You know? So then the Lord performed sacrifices and he gave everything in charity to the priests. And then they were so touched and heart that they thanked him and touched it and gave it back to him. You know? And they offered two very, very nice descriptive prayers, illuminating the Lord. And this is the second one. So maybe we can. This is about the most beautiful verse in this chapter. So maybe we can chant it here. I'll chant and you respond. Namo Brahmanya Devaya.
Namo Brahmanya Devaya.
Ramaya Kunta Medase.
Ramaya Kuntha Medase.
Uttama Shloka Duryaya.
Uttama Shloka Dhuryaya.
Yashjedandar Pitangraye.
Nyasta Dandar Pitangraye.
Okay, now you chant and we will all respond.
Me, Maharaj?
Yeah, you lead and we'll respond.
Namo Brahmanya Devaya.
Namo Brahmanya Devaya.
Ramaya Kuntha Medhase.
Ramaya Kunta Medhase.
Uttama Shloka Dhuryaya.
Uttama Shloka Duryaya.
Nyasta Dandar Pitangraye.
Nashtadandar Pitangraye. Okay. Namaha, we offer obeisances, Brahmanya Devaya, unto the Supreme Personality of God who accepts the Brahmanas as his worshipable deity. Ramaya, unto Lord Ramachandra. Akunta, Vaikunta, Akunta Mahedase, whose memory and knowledge are never disturbed by anxiety. By anxiety. Alphamedasaha. We have a shortcoming of knowledge. Akunta Medase, his memory and knowledge are never disturbed by kunta, anxiety. Uttama Shloka Duryaya, the best of all Uttama Shlokas, the best of all famous persons. Nyasta Dhanda Arpita Angraye, whose lotus feet, Angraye, are worshipped, Arpita, yeah, by, by sages beyond the jurisdiction, Danda, of punishment, Danda, Nyasta. Nyasta Danda Arpita Angraye. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Ramaya Kunta Medase Uttama Shloka Duryaya Nashti Dandar Pitangraye. Oh Lord, you are the supreme personality of Godhead. You are the supreme personality of Godhead, who have accepted the Brahmanas as your worshipable deity. Your knowledge and memory are never disturbed by anxiety. You are the chief of all famous persons within this world, and your lotus feet are worshipped by sages who are beyond the jurisdiction of punishment. O Lord Amachandra, we offer our respectful obeisances unto you. So, so many prayers. So, what is your conception? Is he Gopijana Balaba? Yeah. Purushottam Sri Ram, Lila Purushottam Sri Ram. He's transcendental to all these things, but it's not describing his pastimes or his devotees so much. They're not describing him in terms of his devotees. Can you see our word file now?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay. So again, this is describing the dynasties and the prominent persons. And Lord Ramchandra stands out like a very nice jewel in this genealogy. So Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Liberation. Of course, in the second canto? This is the last chapter, no? Chapter 10. Sukadeva Goswami is describing that all the Puranas include, I think it's 10 subject matters. Sarga, creation by the Lord, by Mahavishnu. Visarga, creation by Brahma. And in the subsequent creations, and the Manus, and the Manu Kata, like that. In Nirodha, Mukti, what is the goal, like that. So, as we understand, we've heard, Sridhar Swami is saying that the first canto is Sarga, second canto is Visarga, creation by Brahma, third canto is subsequent creation by the Manus and others, like that, one after another. And Jiva Goswami says, no, these things are being discussed in each canto. So we're seeing that Prabhupada says this canto can be called Sarga. This canto can be called. So from my perspective, Srila Prabhupada is showing us what to do if somebody is caught in between two acharyas who are arguing about something. So Prabhupada says, okay, we can call this, Yeah. So this is the liberation, mukti. And I think the next one is Samambonam or something like that. Title for each canto as you're coming from this list. Okay. Translation number 1. Sukadeva Goswami said, thereafter, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Amachandra, accepted an acharya, okay, and performed sacrifices, yajnas, with opulent paraphernalia. Okay. So in the modern age, of course, this would be big Harinam Sankirtan Yagna with beautifully installed deities and very nice, punctual, clean, decorated deity worship, nice distribution of prasadam, accepting the acharya like Prabhupada or someone to guide temple president and guide us in these activities. Thus, he himself worshipped himself, for he is the supreme Lord of all demigods. Purport. Okay. And then this verse here, of course, is a Bhakti by Baba verse. Yata tayor mula nischanena chajanti paskanda bhujopasakaha. Prano, prano, pranopaharach chayatendriyanam tataiva sarvarhanam achuteja. Tripyanti is watering, as watering the root, and bhujop upasakaha, and all the branches, sakaha, and as pranopachara, giving prana to the stomach, satisfies all the senses. Similarly, it's a fact that all the demigods are worshipped if Achyuta is worshipped. So little verse, no? Yatha tayor mula nishchanena, 4th canto, 31st chapter. Okay. So Prabhupada saying yagna means worshiping the Supreme Lord. Move my and in the texts, if you look for the word Supreme Personality of Godhead or Krishna or Vishnu, usually it's something like, again here it says, therefore it said Bhagavan or it's Atmanam. They're more like these Upanishadic descriptions, which probably translates that as Krishna or God, Supreme Personality of Godhead, like that. The beginning, at the end of the first chapter, second chapter, it says by following these regulated principles of Bhagavad Gita, second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, by following these regulated principles of liberation, one was sure to be liberated and go to the transcendental abode. Go to the transcendental abode. So the actual text, you may know, is Brahma Nirvana, the last verse in chapter 2. Brahma Nirvana Adigachati. And so, of course, the Buddhists, Mayavadis, all die when they hear Prabhupada translating Brahma Nirvana as the kingdom of God, like that. So, Prabhupada says, I've explained Bhagavad Gita in such a fashion that even a first-class fool can understand it. Yeah. So this is the point we have to understand. The Prabhupada, when the translations, because sometimes we become, in our service, we're facing these kind of things and being challenged by Sanskritists and people like that. And we have to understand that it's a fact. The word Atma, Atmanam in this chapter, or things like that, you'll see it's, um, the soul of all souls, or things like that. But Prabhupada is translating as Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, in more detail, what is the realization of these people who are chanting like this? But this is a fact. He's engaging in yagna under the guidance of an acharya, you know, and uh, and he's worshiping himself because there's no option but to worship himself. And Prabhupada comes down here and it says that this is not a hangrahupashana, not a hangrahupashana, upashana, worship. Yeah. And this is the worship of, um, uh, there is the absolute truth, and therefore all the qualities that are everywhere at all times in the absolute truth must also be present in me. By taking out one drop of the ocean, one can understand the ocean. You know? So there we see this. For example, Erwin Schrodinger, big Nobel laureate, one of the great acharyas in physics, nice person too, apparently. He was saying the same thing, is that the world is so big, but we can throw ourselves down on the breast of the earth and, and realize that we are also a part of that entire thing. So by appreciating ourselves, we can appreciate the Supreme. So this is Ramachandra was not engaged in this. Krishna, when he woke up in the morning and washed his hand and mouth and sat down and meditated upon himself, was not engaged in this. Because the Lord is Brahman Paramama Bhagavan. Okay, so he engaged in sacrifices with a priest, and he had to worship himself. Ramachandra gave the entire east to the Hota priest, the south to the Brahma priest, west to the Advarya, north to Udgata, and the reciter of Samaveda. And this way he donated his entire kingdom. And thinking because the Brahmanas have no material desires, they should possess the entire world. Ramachandra delivered the land between the east, west, north, and south to the Acharya. And one Bhagavatam 117 near the end, Amarash Parikrit received the reward and chastisement of the age of Kali. It's the same principle that Maharaj Pariksit gave Kali the permission to stay with his excessive gold, but he then put that excessive gold, that gold, under the controls of brahmanas and sannyasis, okay, and qualified people, to manage it, and then it could be controlled like that. So because they have no desires, everybody wants to give everything to the brahmanas. But a brahmana will distribute whatever he collects during the day before nightfall, and he'll send it to the right place. So giving any excess to a brahmana is good because he knows where it's needed and will have the best benefit for society. So very, very high cash flow in Vedic economics. So nobody has to acquire anything because the money's moving so quickly. Okay. Then he gave away, after thus giving away everything in charity to the brahmanas, he maintained only his personal garments and ornaments. Similarly, the queen, Mother Sita, was left with only her nose ring and nothing else. It's an odd description, you know. But so I think it's just very unassured. But here's another point here for our street armor investigations. Some of the ladies can make a comment; they might know about this. But I've heard that the nose ring has very special significance. It's like a wedding ring almost. And if a lady is taking off her nose ring or not publicly, it's not a good thing. It's, she's showing her chastity. Yeah. Okay. All the brahmanas were engaged in various activities. The sacrifice were very pleased with Lord Ramachandra, who was greatly affectionate and favorable to the brahmanas. Thus, with melted hearts, they returned all the property received from him and spoke as follows. Chanika Pandit says, there's no show of affection like a gift. So we see this happening here, that Lord Brahmana, Lord Robert Chandra gives this all to them. A very young, handsome person, and the queen's following him, and they're giving this to the priests, and they're feeling, they're feeling such a feeling of respect and appreciation from him. So their hearts become melted, Nadati pratagrinati. Yeah. Because by a gift we can show somebody what they are. One time during I celebrated Vyasa Puja. My Vyasa Puja as a chance to glorify the entire parampara. Okay, I got a place in it. You got a place in it. We all got a place in it. Krishna has a place in it. So on that basis, Virbahu Prabhu doesn't celebrate at all. Locks himself in his room for 2 days. Won't come out. So, but my perspective was okay. Let's do it, but and everybody in proportion. So then everybody is cooking offerings all over the world for Hanuman Prashak Swami, pictures and so forth, so on. Then some time back, I realized that anybody had asked me what I wanted to eat, and I was looking at the local offering, maybe it was Peru or something, and it wasn't a single thing. It was nice, they're very nice, they're well done, but it wasn't really a thing like, that I'm 70% pitta. This is why I don't only shave every 2 weeks, otherwise I'll get skin cancer. Okay, so I'm 70% pitta at least. So I have a certain kind of food which is, good for me and my service, But it was I suddenly realized, my God, it's just, cooking, but nobody had ever asked me what I wanted to eat. Okay. So there's no show of affection like a gift, because then we're showing how much we actually appreciate the person. We know their consciousness. So the Brahmana's hearts were melted, and then they offered everything back to him and said the following prayers. Okay. And Prabhupada is making this point. The Brahminical culture offers no scope for possessing land and ruling citizens. Okay, this is real Brahminical culture. So within ISKCON also we can see that. I would suggest that our presidents and GBC members, they have they're more Brahminically inclined, because that's the kind of movement it is. But they also have some of this fiery martial spirit to want to control everybody and protect everybody, sacrifice themselves for everybody. So in the Brahminical culture, there's no scope for possessing land and ruling citizens. Book distributors sleep on the floor and, get out to themselves. These are the duties of a Kshatriya. Okay. After accepting it, they returned it. So all these things, if you want to take some notes, and then if you want to, we can discuss them in more detail. Okay. On the one hand, Kshatriyas have the propensity to rule, but on the other hand, they are very liberal with charity. So this is real characteristics, isn't it? Kshatriyas have a natural tendency to dominate everybody. Prabhu, this and that. They see a situation, they want to come in, take charge, get things organized, But if then people become criticized or attacked because they're following that Kshatriya, he'll give his life to protect them. Get behind me, I'll take care of this. So the two things are inseparable. The tendency to control and tendency to sacrifice for your subordinates. And here's the two prayers. Oh Lord, you are the master of the universe. Okay, which doesn't mean you're the master of Vaikuntha. What have you not given us? You have entered the core of our hearts. Aha, master of the universe and Paramatma. Dissipated the darkness of ignorance by your effulgence. This is the supreme gift. We do not need a material donation. And then Prabhupada in the purport gives the example of Dhruva Maharaj when he was offered a benediction. Prahlad Maharaj when he was offered a benediction. Vamanadev when he was offered a benediction. Okay, so we see all the Brahmanas. I forgot his name now. It was his name. It was a dancer, sannyasi, Sudama Swami. He said that he was, all the devotees, the temple, they were offering him all this prasad, Mahaprasad, left, right, and cooking and everything else, and what to do, And Prabhupada said that is the duty of Grihastha. to offer big prasad to the sannyasi. And he said it is duty of sannyasi to take little, like that. And so there's a competition, Prabhupada says. Oh, Maharaj, I think knows this. Other people too, brahmacharis. It's a big competition. A lot of times I lose the competition. It's difficult. Oh, text number 7. You are the supreme personality of Godhead. You have accepted the Brahmanas as your worshipful deities. Your knowledge and memory are never disturbed. You are the chief of all famous persons. Your lotus feet are worshipped by sages beyond the jurisdiction of punishment. So very nice illumination. Krishna is the picture. We are the picture frame. Krishna by himself is not very attractive, but when he's surrounded by his pleasure potency in the form of the gopis, he looks very nice. So this is our job. Every year at the Academy Awards, the best actor and actress are Radha and Krishna. Okay. Yeah, but best supporting actor, best supporting actress, best screenplay, best script, best lighting, best music. Yeah, we can start taking other positions like that. Yeah. Okay, they offer obeisances. Okay. So that's kind of one nice section there. Any questions about the little section about sacrifice and reciprocation between brahmanas and kshatriyas? Like that. I'm supposed to look at the participants and see if anybody's raising their hand. Let's see. Okay. So all the ladies are quite happy to be left with nothing but their nose rings. Okay. Text 8. Shukdev Goswami continued. Once, okay, now this is another little pastime being picked out by Sukadeva Goswami. What's passing through his brain? he's talking about these pastimes to Maharaj Parikshit. He tells him about how he did yagnas. He described how Maharaj Prithu did yagnas. Yeah, okay. And now he's saying, once while Lord Chandra was walking at night incognito, hiding himself by the disguise to find out the people's opinion of himself, he heard a man speaking unfavorably about his wife. Speaking to his unchaste wife, the man said, "You go to another man's house, and therefore you are unchaste and polluted. I shall not maintain you anymore." A henpecked husband. Is that Sanskrit in the text? A henpecked husband like Lord Rama may accept a wife like Sita. Okay. Wow. This guy lives in Ayodhya. Who went to another man's house, but I am not henpecked like him. Therefore I shall not accept you again. Okay. Prabhupada says, Sukadeva Goswami says, men with a poor fund of knowledge and a heinous character speak nonsensically. Okay. Mulana Suradim, he's like a famous, what is it, Turkish, Islamic, Arabic sage, mythical character, maybe something was wrong. The story of the scholar and the boatman comes from him. Yeah. Another one is that Mulana Suradim says one should not engage in an argument with a fool because people may have a hard time distinguishing which one of you is the fool. Okay. So, yes, you're going to meet people with a poor fund of knowledge and heinous character, saying all kinds of stupid things. But do not cast your pearls before swine, lest they trample them underfoot and then turn upon you. Fearing such rascals, Ramachandra abandoned his wife Sita Devi, although she was pregnant. The Sita Devi went to the ashram of Valmiki. So, of course, this is a very big discussion. Important point because many times in our preaching in terms of circles with Indians and everything else, this is pointed out as a terrible, activity of Ramchandra. Not discussed much. But we mentioned it a little bit before, but this is the situation. If you're born in a poor family of honest working people, girl, you may not get very fine dresses and have 150 saris. You may only have 25 or 30 saris. Okay, yeah, and you may not get a very great education in music, literature, and things like that. So many things. Then I have so many servants. But if you're the princess, oh, you have beautiful clothes. They warm your bed, the sheets before you go to bed. So many tutors are employed to train you properly. You know, so many things there. But the other side of the coin is, again, like we said, Prabhupada says, Caesar's wife must be above suspicion. Caesar's wife must be above suspicion. Yeah, the queen cannot. There can be no queen, no question about the queen conspiring with the enemy. There can be no question about the queen having any kind of illicit relations. I noticed when John F. Kennedy was inaugurated, as I first noticed it, the next day there was all this like discussion about what's her name? Oh, I remember her name now. Anyway, Mrs. Kennedy wore like that. You know, she wore a little pillbox hat. Her her dress was down to mid calf. Okay, like that. Jacqueline Kennedy. She's a very unusual, very interesting person. She was a very good presidential wife. She had no political nature whatsoever. It's very strange, you know. Whereas Eleanor Roosevelt was completely maybe more political than her husband. You know? But Jacqueline Kennedy was a very very nice wife, but not a good not a politician at all. So John F. Kennedy told the press from the very beginning. He told them, if you want to be my friend, then you won't engage in any kind of political inquiries from my wife. And they learned quite right away, not to do that. And she did other things. I can tell more stories about her as a first lady. It's not a position in the U.S. Constitution, but it's an institution which is there just as powerfully, and how she dresses. That's the standard. If we're going to go to the White House for a big ball or something like that, ladies know, okay, this is where the hymn is this season, you know. Yeah. So he had to make an example out of her. He had to send her away with, harsh, externally tough looking things. So then after that, if the workshopman's wife is thinking, oh, I'm going to hang out with my husband doesn't take care of me. This guy gives me some nice gifts, so I'm going to hang out with him, you know. Then he won't be able to reject me because in our kingdom, the king doesn't do that. But no, wow, even Mother Sita was just sent off to the forest and abandoned with nothing, pregnant. Okay, so terror running through the unchaste women in the kingdom. And Lakshman was totally upset to have to leave her there, but he did, and okay, follow Ram's order. Many details like that. And ladies from Valmiki's ashram or people found her right away, and then she was taken care of like that. Okay. When the time came, she gave birth to twins, Lava and Kush. Okay. And Valmiki did the purifying rituals. So this is that pastime, and this kind of links us right into the children of Lakshman, two sons, Angad and Chitraketu. That's interesting. Lakshman named one of his sons Angada. I'm not noticing this. Why am I amazed by that? Do you know why I'm amazed by that? Why is that interesting? Angada and Chitraketu. And Lord Bharata had two sons, Taksha and Pushkala. Shatrughna, Subahu, Shutasena. Bharata went to conquer all directions, had to kill millions of Gandharvas who were generally pretenders. So one text, earlier canto probably says Gandharvas, parentheses, fairies. So in the British culture, spread all over the world, there's a somewhat developed consciousness of fairies. Morgan Le Fay was the queen of the fairies, and they live on an island called Avalon, a floating island, and I think it's 90 miles above the earth or something like that. So that corresponds so closely to the description of the Gandharvas in the Vedas. You know, it's Gandharva Loka. I think it's the first island, above the earth. It's in the sky. And the Gandharvas and the fairies are both very expert in singing, dancing, and they're mostly pretenders. They'll put up big, come out of the sky and threaten you this way and that way. But if a real Kshatriya challenges them, most of them, but not all of them, will run away and oh my goodness, So he conquered many millions of Gandharvas, taking all their wealth. Okay, this have been bad Gandharvas. offered it to Ramachandra. Shatrughna also killed a Rakshasa named Lavana, who was the son of Madhu Rakshasa. So on the Brajavana Parikrama, we leave Krishna Balaram temple, we go to Mathura, then we take off and we go to Madhuvan. And there's Madhu Gufa. This is there, the cave of Madhu Rakshasa. You can go inside there. So there's a whole story about the people from Mathura were being harassed, by this family, mother and father, and their son, Madhu Rakshasa and Lavana Rakshasa. So it's a whole story, which you can maybe recount, but maybe later we'll see how it goes, about how Madhu Rakshasa was killed and why Shatrughna went instead of Ram. Okay, Shatrughna. 15. Being forsaken by her husband, Sita Devi entrusted her two sons to the care of Valmiki Muni. Then, meditating upon the lotus feet of Ramachandra, she entered the earth. It was impossible for Sita Devi to live in separation from Ramachandra. Therefore, after entrusting her two sons to the care of Valmiki, she entered the earth. 16. After hearing the news of Mother Sita's entering the earth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead was certainly aggrieved. Although he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, upon remembering the exalted qualities of Mother Sita, he could not check his grief in transcendental love. So the purport's talking about this. The grief and separation exists even in the absolute, but such feelings of separation in the spiritual world are transcendentally blissful. So, of course, this is discussed by Rupa Goswami in Nectar of Devotion. There's yoga, meeting, and separation, and they're just essential. Without the separation, there's no flavor to the meeting. Without the meeting, there's no separation to the so on. So they just combine together very tastefully in the spiritual world. That's not a conch shell. There's a train going by. If you can hear it. The skunk also went by. My gosh, we have skunks in our neighborhood. They stink. Okay, it's below freezing here. But such feelings of separation in the spiritual world are transcendently blissful. So they're combined together properly. 17. The attraction, so Prabhupada is continuing with this. Sukadeva Goswami is continuing to Maharaj Pariksha with this instruction. Maharaj Pariksha, at this point, if we're going to be entering into Krishna Lila, we must be at the level of bhava by this point. Adoshrada sadhu sangha, bhajana kriya, anartha nivritti, nishta, ruchi, asaktis, bhava, prema. Where's the Sanskrit for this? Anybody know where we can find the Sanskrit for this in Prabhupada's books? Yeah. Raise your hand. Somebody. Hema Gopi Devi Dasi, your hand is up maybe for this or some other point. Yeah. Please go ahead and enlighten us.
No, I'm sorry, Maharaj. I had put my hands up sometime before to ask a question.
Okay. I can't see it until it doesn't show up right away. I can reduce it. Okay, what was your question? Please go ahead.
Yeah. The steps that Lord Ramchandra took did in fact create terror in the heart of all unchaste women, like you pointed out. But how could that give a sense of protection to chaste women who are forcefully kidnapped or something?
Okay. It's a good question. These are very, very fine points in Dharma, so I don't know exactly how this goes. Prabhupada says, discussing this Dharma, way back in the first two cantos, which we should assimilate before we go on. And we should go on assimilating them. Our education is spiral. The more we go to the third canto, we should know the second canto better. When we go to the fourth canto, we should know the previous. Even the gopis, when you start to think of Krishna, they start with his lotus feet. Okay. So in the Dharma, is this discussion between Bhishma Dev. Bhishma Dev is instructing Yudhisthira. You know what chapter that is? It's in the first canto. Ishmael quits his body.
Ninth chapter.
Yes, 9th chapter. 8th is Queen Kunti. Can you recite all the chapters? Okay, so 9th chapter is instructions, and then it's two purports. Very nice for the Mahabharata. So Prabhupada says, like we're mentioning, Brahmanas should know the Parashara's Dharma Shastras. So I followed that. I got the book, read it. Many nice things for ISKCON I was mentioning. So I'll mention one point here. He says there's so many things in Kali Yuga that I cannot possibly give you rules for everything. It's so irregular. But I'll give you some rules for certain things. And then if you haven't got one sadhaka totally dedicated to spiritual life, Uttamadakari, then a synod of 6 brahmanas will be able to give you proper advice about how to apply these things in specific circumstances. Practical devotional service. So he gives an example, okay? The barber's wife, not the worshipman's wife, the barber's wife is caught in illicit connection with the mayor, Kalde, how should you call that, baron or somebody. So what should the punishment be? So Parasara says there has to be a consideration of 3 things. First, was she protected or unprotected by her family? So exactly what you're talking about is being brought up there. Second, was she willing or unwilling? Okay. Yes, her family, her husband and her family weren't marching after her at all. And the second thing, though, was yeah, she was willing. He didn't force his affection on her. And the third thing, what is their caste relationship? Okay, she's Shudrani and he's Kshatriya. Okay. So it's not so bad in some ways. It could be worse. That if he tore her away from her family protection, he was a Shudra, she was a Brahmin lady, he raped her physically. My goodness. Okay, this is very different. So, what do you think should be the punishment? We have a synod of 6 Brahmins here. What should we do to the mayor? What punishment, chastisement should we do to rectify our temple situation? Temple president, God and relations. Parasara gives a specific thing. Anybody have any suggestions here? Okay, what Parasara says, I don't see any hands up here. I get it. Okay, hard to see how you read the hand thing. Okay, what Parasara says is that the mayor should have his head shaved in public, in a public ceremony with the urine of a donkey. So before the Sunday feast, okay, everybody's all there. It's going to be like some ways it's like a joke, the mayor, okay, he's sitting there looking like really miserable, and the barber's wife is sitting over there, her face, cast at the ground, looking as red as anything, trying to disappear. And so they shave his head with the urine of a donkey, which stinks and stings. And so for some days after that, the mayor wears a hat and has a kind of interesting smell, and everybody's kind of laughing, behind his back and stuff. So do you think they're going to do it again? You think he's going to do something like that again? Yeah. So that's all I can offer. That yes, there are specific adjustments for specific circumstances, and why Lord Ramachandra dealt with it this way during the Treta Yuga, I can't give more details than that, but it's a good question, about the ladies who are chaste who are being kidnapped. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. Yeah, but she was taken care of. As soon as Lakshman left her off, they came from the ashram and took her there. Okay. The attraction between man and woman or male and female always exists everywhere, making everyone always fearful. Such feelings are present even among the controllers like Brahma and Shiva, and is the cause of fear for them. What to speak of others who are attached to household life within this material world. So if we're coming to Baba, then why hasn't Maharaj Parikshit learned this before? Hasn't he learned this before? Sukadeva Goswami is presenting it again, but now he's presenting it at the level so intense that it would melt gold. Before he was washing the gold off. Third canto is intense. boy, you're going to go to hell. But simultaneously, there's intense sense gratification in it. So you shouldn't go beyond the first two cantos unless you're free from gross illicit sex. The third canto right away is just too much. Yeah, yeah, more intense. The goal is washed. But now these stories we're hearing about all these people, they're heating the gold up to the point where it's melting and bubbling off the contaminations like that. Okay. Baba says, as explained above, when the feelings of love and transcendental bliss from the spiritual world are pervertedly reflected in the material world, they are certainly the cause of bondage. 18. Okay. After Mother Sita entered the earth, Ramachandra observed complete celibacy. Okay. And performed an uninterrupted Agnihotra Yagna for 13,000 years. Yeah. So this is, from his side, he also, you know, underwent austerities, that's the same way she was subjected to austerities. After completing the sacrifice, which went on for 13,000 years, his lotus feet which were sometimes pierced by thorns, while he lived in Dandakaranya, placed those lotus feet in the hearts of those who always think of him. Okay, wow. Then he entered his own abode, Vaikuntha planet, which is beyond the Brahmajyoti. So we understand all the little avatars, Ram, Nrsimha, Matsya, they have planets. One description in Chaitanya Charitamrita is that Mahavishnu Loka is eternal. You can sit there glorifying God in Shantaras forever, forever, forever. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo. It's kind of like a Shringa arti that never stops. It just keeps on going and 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 going. Yeah. So Mahavishnu Loka is, it's wonderful. God is great, really great. Yeah. And we come to Vaikuntha. Okay, now everybody's 16 years old. Everybody is, in high school. And they're second or third year of high school and having all kinds of fun. Vaikuntha is like a Disneyland, which is only about 25% completed. Yeah. So many more fun things to develop and beautiful things, wonderful things. And then above that are Leela avatars, remembering, like Ram and Ayodhya. And of course, we have Bhagavad-Gita describing this. Then, Mathura, Dwarka. Yeah. So he has, as a Leela avatar, he has his place eternally. These things are so much fun, that Sita and Ram, Radha and Krishna want to play these pastimes forever. Okay. Yeah. So then, of course, it mentions his feet were pierced by thorns. And so the gopis, when they would think of this, would pass out. Krishna's feet were so sensitive. Nanda Maharaj was talking about how sensitive Krishna was. The reddishness on his feet, or his feet, even a blade of grass, he would go across and drag it across his feet, they would change color. Somebody asked Nanda Maharaj, how's your little boy? You've got a wonderful little baby after all these years. It's so nice. We're all so happy. He said, oh, he's just wonderful. He said, but he's so sensitive. He likes his sweet rice, his kheer, at just the right temperature, just the right kind of milk, he appreciates it so much. And when it's a little bit off, he never complains, but you can see that, he's experiencing it like that. So Krishna is such an enjoyer. Yeah. He's so sensitive. So it's being mentioned here that Ramachandra also has these same qualities. Okay. The word Atmajoti is significant. Okay. So what is this? Probably it says, okay, because I think in the Sanskrit it's going to say he went to the Brahman, the Brahmajyoti, and probably is saying the Vaikuntha planet or like that. Sometimes the purports don't make sense without looking back at the Sanskrit, no? You know all these things. Let's chant this here, Brahma Samhita. Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagaranda Koti Shvasesha Vasudhadi Vibhuti Vinam Brahma Nishkalam Anantam Asesha Bhutam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord who is endowed with great power. The glowing effulgence of his transcendental form is the impersonal Brahman, which is absolute, complete, and unlimited, and which displays the varieties of countless planets with their different opulences in millions and millions of universes. Bhakti-Vedanta Saraswati's English, Jiva Goswami's commentaries from the Brahmajyoti, okay, the beginning of the spiritual world. So Prabhupada's taking time to discuss this, how the Lord didn't depart, didn't merge into the Brahmajyoti. Yeah, he went, the green bird entered the green forest. Okay, the candle entered the sun. Yeah. But if we look closer, the green bird is enjoying the water and flashing and associated with other green birds after coming out of the desert. And of course, Prabhupada quotes the Acharyas 10:232. Aruya kuch shrena param padam tata tantiyahado nadarita yusmad angrayaha. This is prayer for the demigods. And they're pointing out that people who don't take shelter of the Lord's lotus feet, they're false, they think they're advanced, but they fall down. So many big philosophers, so many people in history, were just incredibly detached, incredibly inspirational in their ideas, but you can see the name of God didn't appear very much, or if it did, they interpreted it as, impersonal. When Lord Ramachandra's reputation for having killed Ravana with showers of arrows at the request of the demigods, and for having built a bridge over the ocean, does not constitute the factual glory of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Ramachandra. So again, these are the two things. Krishna is Giridhari, and Ramachandra is building a bridge, Setu and killing Ravana. Ramachandra has no equal or superior, and therefore he had no need to take help from the monkeys to gain victory over Ravana. Okay, so Prabhupada's explaining this. What does he deal with first? As stated in the Vedas, in the Svetashvatara Upanishad. Svetashvatara, okay, it's the white avatar. Okay, the Supreme Lord has nothing to do. Okay, this is the same we find in the Upanishad. No one greater than him. But he does do things in transcendence. That's the point. But when the Lord wants to take pleasure in pastimes, he comes down to the material world and acts like a human being, thus showing his wonderful, glorious activities to please his devotees. So this is a very interesting point. Does Krishna really like the material world? And I think it appears he does. It was Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj one time in Vaishnava Parikrama was talking about this, that back in Vaikuntha, you can't go tearing Hiranyakasipu's intestines out and tossing them all over Vaikuntha. We've heard, actually Sridhar Maharaj, Prabhupada's godbrother, said that these Bhoma Lila pastimes of tearing out intestines, these kind of things, appear in the spiritual world in a passive sense, like pictures. He gave the example of some British lord may kill some terrible man-eating tiger, which is harassing some village under his protection in India. And then they all stand there with the box camera with the flash, and the British lord stands with his foot on the head of the tiger, and his Indian Indian servants are surrounding him, holding guns and stuff like that. They take a picture, and he goes back to England. He shows all the ladies in Buckingham Palace or wherever it is, and they all go, "Oh, he's so big. You're so wonderful. You're so powerful." He says, "Yes, I am." So we can see Lord Nrsingadev in Vaikuntha sitting there, and all the Lakshmis are saying, "Oh, he's so terrifying. You're so wonderful." And Lord Nrsingadeva is saying, yes, yes, I am. So, so many things like this. Krishna doesn't want to show. Arjuna asks him to show the universal form. He doesn't want to show it. You know, it's something. You know, somebody comes back from the war in Iraq or the war in Vietnam, and so many war pastimes, but he doesn't want to discuss them. It was very interesting. It's very noted after World War II. Some people wrote stories about it, particularly. But those were like documentaries, But very, 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 very few of the soldiers who came back from World War II in the United States wanted to talk about it. It was very interesting. There was this, family's remark on this, that they actually had to even dig into it to get them to talk about it and stuff. So Krishna wants Arjuna wants Krishna to show his universal form. And Krishna doesn't want to show it. Come on. The funny says, okay, Hantayam, okay, buddy, I'll show it. Arjuna's hair is on end, everything else. So he comes apparently to enjoy pastimes. After he bashes people with his club, he doesn't wash the blood off. He goes back and sometimes he sits there in Vaikuntha, Mara says, like looking at the different stains and thinking about what a good time that was. He enjoys helping the devotees. And also, you can't carry on these pastimes. So maybe he enjoys getting down into the material world sometimes. He enjoys Kuja's offering sometimes. Okay, we'll finish off here and ask for some questions. His spotless name and fame, which vanquish all sinful reactions, are celebrated in all directions like the ornamental cloth on a victorious elephant. Great family persons like Markandeya Rishi still glorify his characteristics in the assemblies of great emperors like Maharaj Yudhisthira. Similarly, all the saintly kings and all demigods, including Shiva and Lord Brahma, worship the Lord by bowing down with their helmets. And he offers obeisances his lotus feet. He went back to home, back to Godhead, to the spiritual world where bhakti yogis are promoted. Okay. And everybody, just bowing down in whatever service they entered, offering his feet, he dealt with them all in a very father-like fashion. Okay. So now it's going to go ahead here at this point. Okay. There's a Shruti fall. Okay, let's do the next two verses. It'll be nice actual break. Okay. And the purport, John Makarma Chame Vivyam Abram Yo Veti Tatvataha Tatvadeham Punarjanma Naiti Marmeti Sarjunan. So apparently they were offering obeisances and smiling and everything else. I guess the worshipman, maybe he didn't go. Maybe he just got promoted to become Indra in his next lifetime or something. But they offered obeisances. They stood up when he passed by on the road. That was enough. Hanuman's prayers in the 5th canto, he says, took them all back to Godhead. You're standing every time the Lord goes by, you become more and more pushed to ask, well, why do I worship the Lord like this? Why do we worship? So jnana develops and then one becomes purified. Okay. And they all accepted him just like their father. They could talk with him if they have problems and everything else. Ram Darbar. After giving up the body, the devotee who becomes perfect in devotional service enters that particular universe where Lord Ramachandra or Krishna is engaged in his pastimes. So I've heard this before, but where's the citation, Prabhu? When Krishna says you go to his abode. But usually no, we take birth in Navadvip or in Vrindavan or someplace like that for final purification, final training. We're with Krishna, but we're not with Krishna. Final purification is there. Parastasmat bhavo nyo vyakto vyatak sanatanaha. And again, this is, Bhagavad Gita 8:20. It's 8:20. Very nice verses. It's there where Prabhupada describes Vaikuntha. 8:21 he describes. This is the verse before. In Bhagavad Gita 8:20, the next one, that abode is eternal. So there, in the purport, Prabhupada gives a description of Goloka. It's the only place in the Gita he does it. And one who enters into these pastimes is called Nitya Lila Pravishta. So we glorify Prabhupada that way. To understand clearly, it is mentioned here with that particular place where bhakti yogis go. So before he went to the Brahma Jyoti, everything else, but here in this verse, Prabhupada is pointing out, no. Here it's very clearly said. So many times you see the Mayavadis will take something out and to support their position, but the next verse after that, which you're not quoting, or other verses in the same part of the same Upanishad, very clearly. Nityo, Nityanam, Chetanas, Chetananam. So Prabhupada the Acharyas are just again and again, anyone who gives oral reception to these narrations concerning the character and pastimes of Ram will ultimately be free from the disease of envy. Why be envious when you're fully satisfied yourself? You have so much yourself, you can't even give it away properly. Thus will be liberated from the bondage of fruitive activities. Prabhupada says. Talks about envy here now. Prabhupada focuses on this thing of envy. Even in religious life, it is sometimes found that if one devotee has advanced in spiritual activities, other devotees are envious of him. Okay. So Prabhupada and the Gaudiya Math, Bhakti-Vedanta, Saraswati, the so-called Brahmanas, even ourselves at ISKCON, yes, sir. Some of us, I would say, this is without a doubt, yes, and not pure devotees, you know. So we're so mistaken. We see people advancing in devotional service, and we want to kill them. What's the word? I'm covetous. That means I want your possessions. I'm envious on Vidi. That means I want you dead, like that. So he wished it. Oh, she's advancing in devotional service. I wish she was dead. Yeah, but we're so stupid. We don't realize that anybody advances, it's an opportunity for us to advance our service. Yeah, so just understand how they're advancing and steal that to advance your service. A devotee is never envious of anyone, even his enemy. Bhagavad Gita Prabhupada says one should not become one's enemy's enemy. Very easy thing to do. If someone becomes your enemy, it's so easy to become their enemy. Always remember that. Don't become your enemy's enemy. Because the devotee knows that the Lord is the supreme protector. He thinks, what harm can some enemy do to me? Okay. So, if any says, then Maharaj Pariksit inquired. So any questions here? We could take a little bit of a break at this point and discuss some of these pastime activities. I will go ahead and click on the participants list. Everybody is very happy with Varna Ashram Dharma.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Navadu Chandra Prabhu.
Thank you, Maharaj. I have a question about something you mentioned earlier regarding arguing with a fool.
Yes.
And I remember you said the phrase "never cast pearls before a swine." Now, I'd just like to have some advice from you, Maharaj, on this. How do you actually deal with such situations? Sometimes you may not have the luxury of avoiding interacting with the fool. And inevitably, in my experience, such interactions have always been unproductive.
Yes.
But I've had no alternative. So, what are the
Rasaraj? One time I remember Rasaraj gave the example: if there's some excrement on the wet excrement on the ground, you can't try and kick it away with your foot. You're still going to. How does Krishna do it? Krishna incarnates as Lord Shiva. So, then if there is some excrement on the front porch, you take the proper tool, which can be cleansed and sterilized afterwards. For example, Prabhupada taught the devotees that if people say, do you know Sai Baba? And do you know different people like this and that one? And Prabhupada said that the devotees, they should say, oh, who, Sai Baba? Or what's his name? What's his philosophy? What's his philosophy? So to avoid getting into these personality cult conflicts, which you say are always unproductive, and Prabhupada would have always told the devotees always to bring it back to the point of logical, philosophical discussions like that. So then we avoid. Another time, there's a story of Prabhupada. He was in Brijan and Mataji in Hong Kong. They arranged some interview, And he said, and the next morning it said Prabhupada was denouncing Maharaji, whose mother said he was God. He was God. It's some time ago. And then they showed it to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was laughing and said, Prabhupada said, I did not want to discuss it. I did not want to discuss it. He kept pushing me, pushing me, pushing me. So finally, okay, you know, I gave my opinion. Lord Chaitanya, see, it's different depending on the exact circumstances and the kind of people you're dealing with. Narada Muni should not have let Daksha sit there and insult him. You know, he should have gone away. But he stayed there because he knew Daksha was a very pious person. And after he vented his anger, and he would be feel bad, and he would be very, very humble and very, very willing to listen to preaching. So every single psychological circumstance you can encounter, we have heard, is in Srimad Bhagavatam. So all these different stories about how to engage with fools. And sometimes, many basic principle is what? To avoid the demons, make friendship with the devotees, preach to the innocent, and what's we're in love God. So depending if we're Madhyamadakar, that's the general principle. So if avoid the demons, but if we have to defend the weak against the strong, Prabhupada said violence is never good, but it's sometimes necessary to defend the weak against the strong when good arguments fail, like that. So many stories like this. That's another principle then. So sometimes, yes, you have to use force. One time I gave a whole lecture to 50 people in the Secret Service in Peru. It was an intense lecture. God, this country's so disciplined, everything else. And then questions, and one of the guys raised his hand. All of them, the men and the women, were sitting with their hands folded on their desks, looking at me. It's like the devotee's father was head of the secret police in Peru. One that raised his hand and said, if you have to kill somebody in the line of duty, do you get bad karma? Then I quoted this, and I was saying, yeah, it's violence. Prabhupada says violence is never good, but it's sometimes necessary to defend the weak against the strong when good arguments fail. And it says sometimes you have to do it, and it said, but you won't feel good about it. Never. And I was looking at the audience, and maybe about him and maybe two more people were kind of shaking their heads from side to side, like they had to do it. And yeah, you're not going to feel good about it. So yes, sometimes you have to engage as brahmanas in verbal violence with people, and argue and stuff. And you have to do it to protect people who are going to be just confused by these things. Okay. But Prabhupada says, unless it's done expertly, there'll be a bad taste for everybody. But it appears even no matter how expertly you do it, to some degree in this material world, yeah, you're going to have to take a bath afterwards. So, yeah. Okay.
Raj, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Or you want me to ask after break?
Is it about this material?
No, it's different. You said something today about spiritual advancement. It's not relevant to present discussion.
Well, no, if I said something, let's just deal with it now. It's only if you've only been going for it.
Okay, so Maharaj, you were talking about spiritual advancement, advancing from sadhu sangha to bhajana kriya and anartha nivritti and nishtha. So Maharaj, I have heard that we cannot advance from anartha nivritti to nishtha unless we learn to respect everyone, and that's difficult to respect everyone, and more difficult is to expect no respect in return. So how does this happen, Maharaj? Because I've been trying, but I always fail. Does it happen automatically as we make spiritual advancement more and more? We have element of false ego covering our soul. So that comes in action, and I just helplessly watch myself disrespecting others and expecting respect from others. You are known for this. You are known for respecting everyone and not expecting a respect. Maharaj, some comments from you.
Jayananda was my acharya. One time he said, temple is such, his important association was so formative for me. Jayananda, Vachupdamana Maharaj, and Hansaduta. He said, Hanuman, if you had to spend one day in my mind, you wouldn't like it like that. So the Rajmana Parikrama is so intense with Lokanath Maharaj. You don't come back each night like Radhanath Maharaj. You go out and you sleep on the dirt. It's unbelievable, the physical pressure. People who do that, they say that the Rajmana Parikrama with Lokanath Maharaj is the postgraduate course of the Navadvip Mandala. So your mind becomes, it's all, you're stripped, if it happened, you're separated from everything, and you can really see your mind for what it is. I saw my mind was just a dirty, envious dog, you know, unless it's really fat and happy, and it starts criticizing anybody for how their hair is cut, for how their clothes are ironed or not. It was just, my mind was just, I had to keep watching it and keep going, going crazy. But you learn how to do it, sadhana bhakti, and that's part of it. There are tips, there are techniques, mantra works. Just by force, you can control your mind and the envy and stuff. Um, the big thing is to see how it's coming out of the heart. And then we can recognize it as, this is not me. I'm not angry at these people, but my mind is such a dog. We're learning not to identify with our mind. How? Because we're chanting, we're associating, like it says in the verse here, by regularly hearing, by the mercy of the Guru, which means that he's always giving instructions, always chanting, always kirtan, always pastimes, always showing, all Gaura Srila Prabhupada. And devotees, by good association, then we start to become purified, we start to get happiness within. And even though these things will go on, probably they'll go on right to the very last moment of our lives. But more and more, we'll dovetail our envy and our anger against the demons. I know some devotees. One devotee, he was a paratrooper in Vietnam. He was Uddareta. Stories, his activities are incredible. But then Krishna would go out of his way to arrange something where he could dovetail these violent propensities in Krishna service. I mean, if he would show up in a temple, I would go, oh my God, what's going to happen next? Because Krishna would arrange these things. So that's one thing, is that Krishna from his side will help us. And we have to watch for that and just catch it. That's all we can do. Krishna will keep us from becoming envious. The second thing from our side, yes, the process itself. We'll gradually, like it says, we'll remove this envy from our heart. And we should see that. I see it, different experiences. Krishna gives you a chance to see it year after year. And you can actually see how you're making progress over the last 5 years, 5 years, 5 years. Same thing, but now I really have changed. I have. And sometimes it's so gradual we don't see it from day to day, but some outstanding event like what happened 5 years before, and you see, oh, yep, I'm at heart, I'm changing like that. So the process itself will do it. And like we said, mechanical tricks, you'll find so many mechanical tricks, which in Prabhupada's book, which you can apply. And some tricks are good as some cases, and some tricks are good for somebody else on different levels like that. But basically, yes, my experience, and it does happen, it does go away. Or at least it becomes controllable. And even by Krishna's direct, I'll finish up one last story. Okay. Uddareta, paratrooper in Vietnam, he was so passionate, everything else. He used to jump off the back of the temple in Berkeley. It was 1.5 stories, mezzanine thing, to keep in shape. When you're coming down in the parachute, that's about what it is. It's about the final drop is about the same as 1.5 stories. So you got to be able to do that. Okay. So anyway, he was in Germany with Hansaduda, and it was Gaur Purnima. And so many devotees came from all over Germany, German devotees. Okay, big festival. And they were there at, after the festival. So maybe like 2:00 in the morning, it was 6 German biker guys, big motorcycle guys, beer drinking, everything else. They've been chased out of every bar in Germany, whether it was Berlin. And so they wanted a little more fun before they went home. So they drove their motorcycles right through the front window of the Hare Krishna temple, right into the lobby. But there were a lot of brahmacharis there and stuff because it was a Gaur Purnima festival, But they were all in their night dress and whatever, and they're fighting with these big German guys and jackets and everything else, and the German guys are having fun. It's like the sages of Naimisharanya being attacked by by Ravana's followers, or wherever it was. But Uddarata was there. I can tell other stories just like this. So he came out on the balcony and he said, "Oh, thank you, Krishna." So of course he had an iron bar. He found something, he had it. So when I give classes, I can show this. So he jumped off the balcony, okay, with his war cry, and he eliminated one guy by landing on him. Whack, you know. Okay, you hold. Okay, I'll turn got my camera here. Can you see me? Okay,
Yes.
okay. You you gotta. There it is. You grab the iron bar. I got iron bars here, like this. Okay, okay. There's the iron bar. Okay. You step forward. I have a black belt in karate. You step forward and you aim this towards the earlobe. Okay. Wham. Okay. For the second blow, you go for the solar plexus. Wham. And the third one, you hit the knee. Wham. Okay. So he was trained like this. So he eliminated one guy by jumping on him. The next guy, he 1, 2, 3 knocks him down. Somebody grabbed him from the back. He went straight back and hit the guy in the face with the club. And after a few minutes, these guys were running away, and the devotees inherited 6 motorcycles. Yeah, 6 motorcycles. But one of them died. He actually killed one of them. So and Hans Duda had him on the first airplane out of Germany the next morning, got him out of there. 3 days later, because they found out the guy that died, the boy that died, his father was a big police guy in one town. So 3 days later, 5 or 6 police cars showed up right in front of the temple, and this guy got out. And they thought, "Oh God, it's in Germany. We're going to be, sausages by the time this is over." The guy came in and he said, "I want to talk to your president. I want all your men here." All were there, lined up, and his police guys were standing there. And he said, "I came to you, and my son was the one who was involved in that incident. It was investigated very thoroughly, and my son died. And of course, it's influenced me very strongly. But I want to tell you that I knew he was a bad boy. I knew this was going to happen, so I hold no grudge against your people whatsoever." That's Germany. like, you know, okay, we hold no grudge against your son. Okay, thank you. So Krishna will go to that extent. Urdhvarata, he just couldn't control. He asked Prabhupada how to control his passions, and Prabhupada got down and started doing push-ups on the floor. Prabhupada started doing this and said, "You can do these." And Urdhvarata was so embarrassed, you see, that he never asked Prabhupada again for, about it. He just thought, "I got to solve this myself." So there's an example. The process will do it. You can take certain tricks, push-ups, yeah. Or else in the end, if you're sincere, Krishna will arrange a situation where you can, get your anger out. Okay. So thank you all very much. It's now 5:50 here, 10 minutes to the hour. So I'll see you all again 5 minutes after the half hour or the hour. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So once you go back to Goloka, or that you can never fall down again. But another side note is this point that we always have free will. Either we're controlled by pain or fear of pain, or we're controlled by pleasure. We're experiencing so much pleasure that we can't. It's kind of like a drug addict. So it's this big discussion, the origin of the jiva, encountering, but right in Nectar of Instruction, it makes this point. Prabhupada says that if as soon as we become envious, we fall from the Paramahamsa platform, like that. So this is because Prabhupada is talking about even in spirituality there will be envy and these things going on like that. So we always have free will. This is a point that can be discussed. But even in Goloka, we can choose. What causes us to do it? No, nothing causes us to do it. We have free will, and we turn away from Krishna. Prabhupada says we were with Krishna in Vrindavan, one place, but somehow or other we did not like serving Krishna. So, okay, a big discussion, a separate discussion. But since envy is being mentioned here, and devotees, I thought it would include this exact citation from Nectar of Instruction. It be used in terms of preaching. Okay, 24. Maharaj Parikshit inquired from Sukadeva Goswami, How did the Lord conduct himself? How did he behave in relation with his brothers? Yeah. And how did they treat him? Okay. So this is the second half. Third half, first part is his yagna. The second part is his dealing with the unchaste wife. Yeah, what happened after that? Yeah. And now Sukadeva Goswami replied, after accepting the throne of the government by the fervent request of his younger brother Bharata, which is a whole separate Leela, uh, uh, he sent his younger brothers out to conquer the entire world. Okay. Well, he stayed in Ayodhya and supervised the government. And Prabhupada says in the purport, God, Supreme Lord, does not allow any of his devotees or assistants to be engaged in sense gratification. So we want to sit tightly in our temple and have the income coming in and enjoying ourselves, eating pomegranate seeds. But Prabhupada is always sending everybody out. But he said, not go here, go there, do this, do that, work. Yeah. And so this is quite natural. And Prabhupada said earlier, Tui makes this point with Yudhisthira, was not to artificially dominate other people. Was just a good fight. The Kshatriyas like this. They like to have a good challenge. And so they challenge. They give Yudhisthira a challenge. They may even know they're going to lose. But here's a chance to fight with Arjuna. Okay, let's have it out. You know, even if we lose, you can say, "Oh, I fought with Arjuna and I was able to stay in the ring with him for 3 rounds before he defeated me." You know? So it's quite natural. Looking back at how Maharaj Yudhisthira ruled the world, I think it's where is it? It's in the the first canto. Maybe the birth of Maharaj Parikshit there. Some nice purports. Excuse me. So it says he became emperor of the world. So I think it's a very important point from our comprehension. If we're asked to rule the world and we're seeing the modern situation, we accept this. There should be one government which is organizing the operation of the world. You can go into ecological arguments and Virat Roop and points like this, that the world is meant to be managed by human beings as one unit because different things are available in different places. And so there has to be some intelligent human being there to protect all the living entities and to adjust everything else. Of course, now that modern transportation has made it one world, we're connected up by air travel and electronic communication and intercontinental ballistic missiles. We see that to some degree it's there that the United States of America, some people call it the United Snakes of America. From my perspective, it's been fulfilling this to a large degree. There's the United Nations, but behind that there's the United States. Look up aircraft carriers on the Wikipedia. It's like most countries, only maybe like 15 countries in the world have them or something like that. And very few of them have full aircraft carriers. Most of them are for like launching helicopters or smaller airplanes. But something like the U.S. out of maybe 45 aircraft carriers in the world, the United States has something like 30 or something, 25. It's very indicative, and they spend so much money. Something like 40% of all the world's budget for military defense is for the United States. So in this, and then of course, defeating other people by espionage, by influence, by threat. Yeah. So to me, it's a very natural thing, and not to try and suppress it, but to try and develop it in such a way that it's healthy. It's a healthy thing, And in some ways, the United States of America is very ill suited for this because they're very much naive. The European countries are much more experienced and have a much longer heritage, like that and so on. So it's a very practical point that there should be a global government. I would say it's our point, and it should be determined, by Kshatriya methods, which is may the best man win, different kinds of competitions like that, And so again, these are all topics where 6 brahmanas have to come together and discuss them very nicely. One room conversation, Prabhupada was talking to 2 Catholic priests, and as he always did with them, he didn't go talking about Baba. He started talking about Varna Ashram Dharma, describing what is a brahmana. So after that, one of the Catholic priests asked Prabhupada, oh, so, I think they were calling him Your Excellency, Your Excellency. These two priests says, so are you training second-class men? Are you training warriors? It was a little like that. Are you actually training your class of warriors? And Prabhupada responded, I have not yet got facility. I have not yet got facility. So Prabhupada was right. We're ready that there should be training, for people in this class, Varna Ashram training. So much of Rama's pastimes are instruction in terms of Sri Dharma, Grihastha Ashram, and also in terms of Kshatriya Dharma. So a little bit of discussion of having an emperor for the world. And Prabhupada makes this point that one should not be falsely proud because he does not leave Vrindavan. No. Yes, it's very nice going there, and maybe our service is there. But usually we have some nice experiences there, then we take them out. Krishna and the gopis will give us some nice experience by Prabhupada's mercy. And then we realize, my goodness, unless I take these out, then how will anybody else know about Vrindavan? Yare deke tarikaha Krishna upadesh. So this, of course, is a verse that we should know before we become bhakti sarvabhauma. There are many of our verses quoted in purports from Chaitanya Charitamrita and so forth, so we should know. Yare deka tarikaha Krishna upadesh amaraganai guru hoy tare desh. Fantastic purport. The problem is, this is his instruction. Wherever you go, whoever you meet, tell them about Krishna. Tell them about Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. My order, Amar Agnai, you become guru. Maybe it's there, or else it's the one Kiba Vipra, Kiba Nasi, that Prabhupada is saying that one can become Shiksha, can become Bhartmana Pradarshika, Shiksha, or Diksha Guru. All these things are possible by Lord Chaitanya's order. So this is it. Wherever we go, whoever you meet, of course, whatever website you go to, whatever, everybody's different in their character, their nature. Some people are very gregarious. Some people are their experience is very shy. Okay, but everybody can preach according to their own means. Just develop your style, develop it. Of course, Kanista Adhikari, Prabhupada said, do not preach. Okay, and the Lord shows them mercy by giving facility for deity worship and training and education. But Prabhupada is saying we should not remain as a Kanista Adhikari. We should advance to Madhyama Adhikari, where it's very practical progress, and ultimately become Paramahamsa, which means fully awake. It's all a matter of waking up. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhyaka Vunaya Shravanadi Shuddha Kadaze Udaya. Okay, text 26. During the reign of Lord Ramachandra, the streets of the capital of the Ayodhya were sprinkled with perfumed water. So now we have, in Christianity, there's very few descriptions of the kingdom of God. They're very general, Yeah. But in the Bhagavatam, it gives such nice descriptions, trying to bring across some idea. Paintings can be done, and the artist can enthuse them with such potency that we can begin to appreciate these things. Okay, everybody very happy to see that the king, the temple president, was right there doing the work. The elephants were shooting perfumed water. Okay, Prabhupada says there's no need for sprinkling machines. So again, this is natural living. The resources are there. So much money is being invested in developing solar cells. We already have solar cells. Grass. Yeah. So the grass just collects so much solar energy. And the bullocks and the horses, and these are the natural motive power. So they eat the grass and then they supply motive power. They turn the wheels, they can't move the carts. So living in the village, the only we mentioned this before, I think the only resource that we see recourse to all these pandemics is to be as a village-centric society. So many things you could go into this, and preaching and developing and how it's supposed to be developed. Polygamy, village-centric society, increasing our brahmacharya ashram, so many men don't get married. population control, happy life, living in the village. Okay. So not all these animals and everything else were engaged, right, with the city. And it was a great, great, nice blend. The animals teaching the people teaching the animals. Some machines, okay. Usually the machines in Vedic culture are more for, sometimes for war, but also more for like entertainment. They're little, they're like robots to do interesting things. He was not a sleeping monarch, very active person out there investigating at night, disguising himself. Okay. So Prabhupada's talking about Ram Raja, and he's saying without the scientific division, there can be no question of good citizenship. Yeah. So we actually have to understand how people can be identified. As far as I understand, we're influenced by three modes of nature. But those are influenced by three subdivisions. So you get 9, 327, 381. So Lord Kapila Dev talks about 81 different kinds of mixed devotional service. And as far as I understand, the modes of material nature all to apply to us. So one can be a Shudra, Kshatriya. Never rise beyond one of the lower ranks in the army as a corporal, like that. But he can do his job so well that the biggest general in the army, salutes the guy for the way he does his job. But he's a Shudra, Kshatriya. Okay. And then my own nature, as far as I can understand from all the sources, is Brahmana, Shudra. I have almost no Vaishya, no Kshatriya. I've tried, it doesn't work. But I love, making PowerPoint shows. I love working, physical labor like that, combining a Brahminical perspective. Okay, so do PowerPoint shows for Krishna. Yeah. So the scientific division has to be there. We have to chant Hare Krishna, and, but it has to be. But there Prabhupada said, to Bhakti Charu Maharaj, Maharaj said, chant Hare Krishna is enough. Prabhupada said, no, organization and intelligence. So organization means developing Kshatriyas. Intelligence means developing Brahmanas. So our chanting has to come to the point where it manifests Daivi Varna Ashram. On our kirtan, our sankirtan, through so many methods, automatically then brings into this world, for the benefit of people, for our purification, as an example. And it's how to spread the sankirtan movement. It spreads like that. So there has to be scientific division. Okay. He did many sacrifices and treated the citizens as his sons. The palaces and the palace gates, the assembly houses, the platforms for meeting places, the temples, and all such places were decorated with golden water pots and bedecked with various types of flags. Many flags being mentioned here. I think it's miserable to go on Harinam Sankirtan without flags. Otherwise, it looks like some political movement or something. In Manipur, they have a temple on a pole. One pole, one kind of robust girl, have it. And up on top, and they have a nice temple made out of very, very nice cut cloth and little deities. So it's just one person can carry it very nicely, and it stands up in front of like that. Very beautiful. So all these festivals and the processions and the Sankirtan, when you go out on Harinam, take along a parrot. Put a parrot on his perch, and he can go along and chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Things like this, you see, they work. Different countries really have much better kirtan programs. The next day, if it's done very well, prasadam distribution, it was Saturday in Buenos Aires, and the next day the temple was so many new people came for the first time, nice people. Yeah. Ramachandra visited the people. They said, "Oh Lord, you rescued the earth from the bottom of the sea, and your incarnation is Varaha. Now may you maintain it. We beg your blessings." So Varaha was the first incarnation. Yeah. Keshavadrita Sukara Rupa. Yeah. Then after that came Nrsingadev. So they're glorifying him in terms of incarnations that have occurred. Okay. Thereafter, not having seen the Lord for a long time, the citizens, both men and women, being very eager to see him, left their homes and got up on the roofs of the palaces Being incompletely satisfied with seeing the face of the lotus-eyed Lord Ramachandra, they showered flowers upon him. Okay. Thereafter, he entered the palace of his forefathers, where were very beautiful treasures and traditional wardrobes, and the yards were made of coral. My goodness. And the pillars were made of Vaidurya money. Okay. The doors were made of coral. Oh, goodness. It's so beautiful, huh? And my goodness. And the floor was Markata money. The foundations were made of marble. Palace was decorated with flags and garlands and bedecked. We were in the Radha Govinda temple in Vrindavan. I guess all of you have been there. So nice, you know, up on the hill there. And you go inside, and it's kind of going in one of the side niches, and we would sit there maybe, or maybe by myself sometimes, also some little, maybe 10, 15 devotees talking a little bit about Krishna, a little kirtan. And as he was chanting like that, I was trying to realize, my goodness, this was Rupa Goswami was here. The Jamuna used to go, you know, right down below here. And all around there, at the time must have been beautiful trees and forest and so many people, devotees living, you know, participating in the puja. Then I was thinking, wow, what was Janmashtami like? Rupa Goswami has a book called Sri Krishna Janmashtami Tithi. You start looking at the temple and you realize that it was all these little architraves and niches would have had ghee lamps in them burning, you know, maybe 1,000 different ghee lamps. When you've seen this burning like that, you realize it gives a light even at night, nice enough light to be able to move around quite comfortably, perform kirtan. Yeah. Then the upper story, the next level, there was a kind of balcony all around the temple. So different nice musicians and bands could be up there performing, and there could be competition to try and have time to on Janmashtami for your group present songs, you know, and then festoons, garlands, you know, and you can imagine that that temple was, without a doubt, extremely decorated, you know, during these festivals and cooking the offerings and people, you know, performing beautiful kirtan like that. So Bhakti-Vedanta is a very, very nice part of our whole culture. Ramachandra, the best of all learned scholars, resided in his palace with the pleasure potency Sita and enjoyed complete peace. Without transgressing the religious principles, Ramachandra, whose lotus feet are worshipped by devotees in meditation, enjoyed all the paraphernalia of transcendental pleasure for as long as needed. So, and thus ends the Bhakti-Vedanta translations and purport of the 11th chantra of Lord Ramachandra rules the world. Ram rules. So, any questions, comments, complaints, donations? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Okay, I have questions. Where does, oh, there's somebody talking here now. Narottam Vilas.
Maharaj? Yes.
Yes.
I have one question, Maharaj. It's from the text. What was it? It's the 6, I think. Yes. Well, it says that King Yudhishthir will give the wealth to Karna, and then he will distribute it.
Yes. Oh, where's
So,
that? Oh,
so
yeah.
around, what's in the beginning?
Yeah. Somewhere. Yeah, but Karna was very famous for giving charity like that and so on. Duryodhana was put in charge of the treasury. Huh?
But here it says that Yudhishthir gave the engaged Karna to distribute the in charity. Since Yudhishthir Maharaj engaged Karna.
Yes. He was an expert diplomat. He was an expert diplomat.
But
Duryodhana,
because
what was Duryodhana doing? What was Duryodhana's post during the Rajasuya? sacrifice?
I don't know.
He was a treasurer.
Ah, do you? Ah, okay.
Yeah, yeah, because he had certain things, that potencies and stuff like that. So, whatever wealth he had would like increase and this and so forth, so on. So they had qualities. There's a whole story that after, the story that after uh, Radeya was killed, and the different things. And Krishna said there was never a more pious man in the whole universe. If I hadn't been standing on your chariot, do you think it would have withstood the ostras that Radeya was throwing against you? Yeah. And so in the end, Arjuna had to bow down and realize that his big brother was, without Krishna's thing, was, more powerful than he was, and so on. And he was a good person, but he was, the Pandavas, they insulted him when he came there. They're so rude. Oh yeah, when they found out his father was a horse keeper, in the Peter Book Mahabharata, Bhima said a said oh poop, a more strong word in the play. Let's all get a shovel and go to the stable and shovel horse manure. So Bhima was very rude many times. Yeah, the only person who was there was his friend was Duryodhana. Yeah. So there, it's not an easy story to distinguish who's right and who's wrong. In the end, it takes Krishna to take Arjuna over the confusion like that.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. Yeah. So we have a few more minutes, and I keep quoting that Prabhupada says that each of the diplomas, Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vedanta, Bhakti Vaibhava, Bhakti Sarvabhauma, should include the new material and the previous material. So Bhagavad Gita should be Bhakti Vaibhava level, then we should study Bhagavad Gita, Bhakti Vedanta level. That's when I would say that that should read Waves of Devotion. And then maybe Bhakti Vedanta level, then somebody should write an original thesis. There's so much more you can do in Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada said. Now, if we go to, let's go to this PC. My goodness. Okay, go to Documents. Go to American Bhagavad Curriculum. Go to Secondary. Okay. Go to Nectar of Instruction. Okay. Then I have PowerPoint show here. Nectar of Instruction promo. Okay. Hit F5. Where is that function? Okay. So this is one promotional lecture we did at Oxford. Can you see it? Prabhuji, can you see our screen?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay. So this is one, one time we were visiting in Oxford, just kind of passing through, and Radhika was studying there, and Shonaka Rishi was inviting us, So they put this poster up, just for this one night, so you couldn't do anything longer. And the poster was, showed us like this mystical picture of Rupa Goswami riding here with the monkey in the tree. I identify as Hanuman Prashak as the monkey in the tree. Okay. Looks like Radharani is bringing some food. So we had this promotional poster, which was, it said, Rupa Goswami and his followers and associates dominated the world of, was it 15th century, 16th century Bengali metaphysics. He was a great minister of all these kind of things and so forth, so on. But they renounced it all to live very simply. Then he wrote thousands of verses of literature on philosophy, poetry, music, everything else. And finally, he summarized everything he knew in 11 verses. So come tonight and spend 3 minutes with a genius. Okay. So it was our promotional flyer. We got a lot of people from Oxford coming, that night. Okay, this is a PowerPoint show. I don't know when we made this, 20 years ago. 3 minutes with a genius, Rupa Goswami's Upadeshamrita. Rupa Goswami and his followers. Is it loaded now? How long is it taking to load?
Yeah, it's visible, Maharaj.
Okay. Srila Rupa Goswami and his followers dominated the world of 16th century Indian metaphysics. Okay. Of course, these are very like mystical pictures. You know, I like mystical pictures. Some people do. Okay. Rupa Goswami, very aristocratic, very tall, very. Just looking at them, you would think, oh, this is a very, aristocratic person, cultured. You know? Okay. He was a member of the highly elevated Saraswat Brahmin community. Along with his brothers, he became prime minister of Bengal under the government of the Muslim conqueror Nawab Hussein Shah. A little picture then of there is no place in the world now as rich as Bengal was at that time. And then we have a little place for our Western audiences, Paschatyadeshi pointing out Calcutta, Bengal. Silk, gold, jewels, spices, medical and political science, architecture. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Oh my goodness. PowerPoint, Kidai. Yeah. And this is what it was like. Oh my goodness. It's Saturday night. The government's over. So there's a nice program at, what's it called? Dabir Kash, Sakir Malik, Sanatan Goswami, Sakir Malik. How a bungalow, and so the ladies are arriving in fine saris, so fine that they will pass through a finger ring. With beautiful matched horses clapping on the cobblestones, beautiful ivory chariots, and most excellent music with poetry and Urdu and Bengali, you know. Was introducing what's it called, Uddhava Gita or something, you know. Chatvaturnam Asesha Mandalapati. They were the leaders of the circle of society, the Mandalapati. They were masters of the circle of high society. All this kind of stimulation, everything else, Ayurveda. They were masters of all these things, but still they were not happy. So they left it all to become renunciates and followers of the great Bengali monk and saint, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Here's a hallway they can leave through. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was preaching ecstatic congregational chanting of the names of God as the most excellent method of self-realization in this current age of Kali. He not only preached this process with philosophical logic, but also demonstrated it as he traveled all over India, chanting and dancing in emotional love of God. Of course, you can set this up someplace as a kiosk and just run it. So people come by and you have someone there who's answering questions and whatever. And these PowerPoint shows just running as a kiosk like that, and people watch it and they get informed. He then empowered Rupa Goswami to explain this culture on the basis of Vedic scripture. How many of you know about the Vrindavan Institute? You come out of our Krishna Balaram temple on the main road there, turn left towards Vrindavan. You go down, you pass one little road which goes back in. The next there's a big property like ours, and that I think it's called the Vrindavan Institute. And it's government sponsored. You go inside, it's an open museum. There's so many glass cases with original Sanskrit, not palm leaves, but things like this. And apparently they even have copies of Rupa Goswami's direct handwriting. And it's so beautiful, it's so systematic. An optical character reader could be trained to read it. It's so systematic. And given that we can scan all of Rupa Goswami's writing literatures. Okay, so he was empowered, to Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipanal Sadharma Samstapako, to take all the scriptures and present things properly. Rupa Goswami wrote over 11,000 verses, I think that's right, in 18 major works, and presented a summary of everything in 11 verses. It's Sri Upadeshamrita, the essence of all wisdom. Join us now as we spend 3 minutes with a genius. That's how long it takes to recite the verses like that. The Upadeshamrita of Rupa Goswami, the nectar of instruction of Srila A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. Show will start soon. So, anybody have any comments about Upadeshamrita? A few more minutes here. I have other PowerPoint shows and other perspectives. We're wondering how it was formed. There's one devotee, Hrishikesh Ananda. He's on the internet, and apparently he got a little contact with ISKCON, maybe when he was in Canada or something. And then he went to India to kind of avoid being drafted into the Vietnam War or whatever it was. And there he met a Gaudiya Vaishnava guru and took initiation from him and things like that, as far as I understand. But he was, as he describes, he was associating with Prabhupada, coming often. And a couple of interesting things. He said he went out and he came back and he said, "Oh, Prabhupada, I heard about Siddha Pranali initiation." Of course, this is mentioned in Nectar of Devotion. And it's something that, as far as I can understand, like basically like Raganuga initiation, where you understand what is your form and you start trying to act in terms of that, in the spiritual world. So different comments. It seems that in essence, it's bona fide. It's one level of development. But the actual practice was it was being given out, to people, who weren't following principles or anything. Some Babaji and Madhakun, before Prabhupada left India, they would be giving out. They would tell people, "Oh, your Swarup is your gopi. You wear red sari. You should do this. Meditate on that, and buy me a cold drink and give me 10 rupees." Okay. So it became very degraded, very distorted. Bhakti-Vedanta didn't like it. So he said, Hrishikesh Ananda said to Prabhupada, "Oh, Prabhupada, I've heard about Siddha Pranali initiation, and I want to take that. Can I take it from you?" And Prabhupada said, according to him, "I will give you Siddha Pranali initiation when you're ready." And then he said, "But Prabhupada, what if you're not here when I'm ready?" And he said, Prabhupada looked at him very seriously and said, "Whether I'm here or not, when you're ready, I will give it to you." So very fine point that by the time you're coming to Raganuga Bhakti or Siddha Pranala Bhakti, introduced into that, your connection with the spiritual master is no longer limited by time and space, custom and circumstance. Now, Jitatmana Prasantasya Paramatma Samahita. Now you're in touch with the Paramatma, your intuition, inspiration, pictures. You can feel the presence and intelligence and guidance of Guru through pictures and so on. The other point was that he wanted Nectar of Instruction to be probably to publish it and do a commentary. But as I understand, Prabhupada said, we're already doing Chaitanya Charitamrita. We're doing so many things. It's so difficult. Srimad Bhagavatam. So he was a little persistent, politely. At that point, as he describes it, Prabhupada said, "All right, you come every day, I'll dictate it." So Satsrumar said that he was also taking the dictation. So maybe what happened someday is Hrishikesh Ananda. So these were, the Upadeshamrita then was not dictated onto by dictaphone on the cassette tapes. It's interesting. So how accurate were the people who were writing it down? And did Prabhupada actually manually review and edit the manuscript afterwards? Okay. And then Mother Narayani was in Mayapur, and she said she was typing it up then, the handwritten things of Satsrumars and Hrishikesh Ananda. A couple more minutes. Bhakti-Siddhanta Saraswati, Bhakti-Vinod Thakur was writing a commentary. Bhakti Alok, I think it's a commentary on the first maybe 3 verses. But he talks about other things in those purports. Very nice. Then he started a commentary called Pius Varshana Vritti, something, the rainfall or something. He wasn't able to finish it, so he asked Bhakti-Siddhanta Saraswati to finish it. So he then wrote Bhakti-Siddhanta Saraswati Anuvritti, following the Piyush Parshani Vritti. And of course, you see in practically speaking every single purport, Prabhupada says in his Anuvriti Bhakti-Vedanta Saraswati remarks on these things in the following fashion, like that. So has a whole history. The story is that Lord Chaitanya was very ecstatic. He was walking along the banks of the ocean in Puri in a full moon night, warm weather. Many of the disciples, a very ecstatic internal consciousness. But he came back to external consciousness and he called all the devotees. Rupa Goswami was there. He said, now I'll teach you the essence of Krishna consciousness. And that was Upadeshamrita. It's 11 verses to summarize everything. Bhakti-Vedanta Thakur, of course, we know the song, O Hey Vaishnava Thakur, which is a very interesting discussion about the order of the verses, their content, and everything else. O Hey Vaishnava Thakur, Doyar Sagar, Edase Koruna Kori. But I think it's from, maybe it's from Gitabali, I have it written down, or Sharanagati, maybe Gitabali. And it's one of like 3 songs or 4 songs all together right there, which are about Upadeshamrita. Take those out like that and so on. And so that's a little bit of, some kind of perspective on it, historically and everything else. I have a suspicion that if you go through Prabhupada's books and extract all the times that Prabhupada cites the verses, you'll find every single verse is cited in Prabhupada's books, and a little translation is there, and some purports, some perspectives are given there, like that. And because Bhakti-Vedanta Thakur says you cannot make any progress unless you wear the Upadeshamrita around your neck. Okay, but it's there. Again, Prabhupada's books, we'll find the whole thing there. But by the mercy of Hrishikesh Ananda, possibly, we have the whole Upadeshamrita as a separate little volume. It's such a wonderful book. So any final comments, questions here?
Maharaj, can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
Maharaj, I always had a question regarding Jiva Vegam. Because Maharaj, generally we find in ISKCON that we have a lot of fine foods.
Yes.
When I would hear from devotees, they would give different commentaries on that. One of the devotees would say that actually Mahaprabhu has taught us to eat a lot of fine foods because there are so much description of fine foods in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Some devotees say that no, we have to control tongue. Some devotees say no, automatically as you become aged, you eat a lot of fine foods and your body becomes decayed. Then automatically Jiva Vegam happens naturally. So I wanted to hear about what is actual Updesa, actual instruction.
Well, Prabhupada gives, a lot of statements, he quotes from other relevant scriptures. Jivara lala yeti uti daya shishnodara parayana krishna nahipaya. He quotes from many things like that in terms of, what do you call it, jiva vegam. So this Prabhupada is giving a pretty clear standard of what he's talking about. He says, if we go and eat at a rich man's house, or even eat prasadam with an idea of sense gratification, we're still involved in the control of the external energy. So he makes this point that you can't, in the name of prasadam, you cannot engage in indulgent sense gratification. Different people are on different levels. One level, Jiva Vegam for Raghunath Das Goswami, it meant one thing. We're not on that level, and we won't. And this body, maybe the last 5 days before we die, will be on the level of Raghunath Das Goswami and just taking a little bit of buttermilk each day. But our bodies, my Western body, is gross. Face it. I mean, if I told you the things that I had done before I became a devotee in college and everything else in this whole hippie era, your hair would stand on end, your eyeballs would bulge from your sockets, and the blood would run cold in your veins. That's why I won't tell you. Yes. Yeah. So there's a difference between Indians. If you're born an Indian body, I suspect there's even differences between being a Bengali body and a Punjabi body, like that. Yeah. So the determining factor is devotional service. How using separate control, separate mental activities and stuff. Um, in intelligence is going to be useful to expand our service. It's called Jnana Mishra Bhakti. You know, but other than that, it's a fact that if we just, you know, take. Prabhupada is saying, what's Prabhupada say? Just chant Hare Krishna and you'll become perfect. But he said this is just like telling somebody, just go to the hospital and you will be cured. It's true, but you got to, you know, approach the reception desk. You got to follow people's advice. You got to keep coming and taking your medicine. So the basic principle is yes, if you just take prasadam, you know, you will gradually become free from all different kinds of material interaction. But if you take it properly, use your intelligence and engage in the Jnana Mishra, engage in using your intelligence to serve Krishna, then you'll come to the Paramatma platform much more quickly, and then you'll be, you know, taking prasadam with Prabhupada, with the devotees all the time, and your mind and your resources, and thinking of things. And finally, yes, it comes to the level of Madhavendra Puri, who's showing us, you know, that after you finish eating the prasadam, you eat the pot. Like that. He finished the prasadam and started eating the container. So, okay, tear up the plates, you know, eat the leaf plates. So that's my perspective on it. It's different for different people. There's lots of, read it and contemplate. Read and contemplate what Prabhupada says in Vacha Vegam and Achahara Prayasascha, and then follow up with citations. If he's quoting Jivara Lalashie, you go back to where the citation is from, and you'll find a very more detailed, specifically more detailed instructions about what the standard is, and so on. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so I want to thank everybody very, very much. I'll pick out a few people: Gandharva, Jalangi, one more, Ananga Mohini. Okay. Thank you all very, very much for your kind association. And tomorrow the chapter is very short, so maybe then it's okay. I'll go ahead and then maybe go through a Padesham Rita with more details than we have. So see you tomorrow if the Lord is willing. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. His Holiness.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Jai.
Bye.
Jai.